the polyunsaturated fats that are in the plant matter at a liquid state, whereas for us, they are solid, so they can clog our lymphatic system.
Gotcha. Well, that's good to know. So what are your thoughts on the vegan movement? And then we have this smart agriculture, which is going to be crucial in these smart cities because they're all about sustainability. But like everything that you see in the media, I recommend inverting it, and then you'll see the what they're actually getting at. So it's really unsustainable. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's all coming from the climate change narrative. So look, I'm the same. You know, somebody wants to get a vaccine. I don't convince them otherwise. Somebody wants to be a vegan. I celebrate that. I celebrate people's choice, individual choice and free will to do whatever they like. I absolutely do. Would I recommend it? No, I wouldn't. Nutritionally, spiritually, common sensely, there's no I would not recommend it. You know, there's many reasons not to, but except for the fact that somebody wants to do it, in which case go for it. And I wholly will always support that. Speaking from a nutritional perspective though, it's not the best move. And like you say, I mean, for everyone that is out there on Instagram, I'm vegan and I'm super healthy. And it's like, yeah, how long have you been vegan for though? Have you done it for 20 years, 30 years? Have you seen the amount of people who've lost their teeth, lost their hormonal cycles, lost babies, or had, you know, many forms of metabolic and hormonal dysfunction? So that's not to say that everybody will have that effect, but it's very, very, very common. And especially as somebody who works in that field and having had to rehabilitate many vegans and vegetarians for that matter, it's just, you only have to look at that to realize that it's not the best picture. But it doesn't mean that people can't. And it's also based on so many other factors. But if we're just painting a broad picture, the vegan movement is something that's relatively new. It's born from the world of the city. It is absolutely not born from the world of nature or the jungle. And it's propagated through propaganda, through film, television, marketing, social media, and then virtue signaling and everything else that's not healthy for us. Even if you look at something grand scale like Cameron, who's the guy who made Avatar?
I don't know the guy who made it, but
forget his name, Cameron or Cameron someone. Anyway, so a lot of the element of Avatar, if you look into the messaging in it, it's about veganism. And he was promoting that. He actually wanted to make his own, James Cameron, he actually wanted to make his own vegan film. That was his goal. And I used to make jokes back because I loved Avatar. And I said, I didn't go and see Avatar twice for you to go and make a vegan propaganda movie. I did it so you could make Avatar 2. You know, get on it, son. That's what I used to do. It's like my little comedy skit, but which wasn't actually very funny. But the point is he was really pushing that agenda and that narrative. And that reaches a lot of people and through the subtle signaling as well. But then it turns out he owns several cattle farms. You know what I mean? It's just like
so Bernie Sanders flies on a jet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally against climate change and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they do it on purpose because it's almost like their offer where they have to show the truth. And if people aren't willing or able to see it, that's not their problem. That's the problem of the one who can't see it or is unwilling to see it. They give you both sides. They give you the messaging in its entirety. But most people will only choose to see one particular side and not get the whole picture or message. So yeah, it's rampant actually amongst society. And if I was going to go a few steps further, I'd say that part of it is to help depopulate through the effect that it has on fertility, the effect that it has on masculinity, the effect that it has on many subtle functions of us as an organism that people aren't yet really picking up on, that won't really show itself until another decade or two down the track. But I mean, it's not like people aren't telling you the truth behind it, but I don't know what you call it, greenwashing, when it's all environmental stuff, whatever you would call that with veganism, vegan washing is if you talk to a young adult today, especially a young female, veganism is high on their priority list. Even if they're not vegan yet, they might feel guilty for not being vegan. And it's all about how that infiltrates the minds of especially the young. So it starts there. And there now is a social stigma around things such as meat, eggs, cheese, dairy. You know, the amount of people. So I went back to college about 5, as we were talking about before we started the show, when I went to study film. And in some of for some reason, doing creative industries, there's people talking about other things, world events. And there were many young girls there, young being 18, 19, talking about in their speeches they would give to class about milk and saying how milk causes cancer. And no one in the room's questioning that. And I'm thinking, wow, you guys are really heavily indoctrinated. You don't even know the difference between milk, as in the real food milk, and what you actually see in a supermarket. That's not milk. And the way that studies are performed, for example, they just don't know that. So they're heavily indoctrinated by the vegan propaganda and the vegan movement. Now there is, let me just give, because I know you like to play devil's advocate, there is a place for veganism. And that place for me is if somebody is not doing anything for the world anymore. They're literally only going towards their own spiritual quest. And they want to lighten themselves to such a degree that they essentially ascend, at least in their own mind. And I say that because a lot of the people that I've met that are actually the most spiritual and the most advanced that I have observed myself, they eat omnivorous diet, and quite often they'll eat it all raw, like raw meat, raw eggs, raw organs, blood. And because they have such a reverence for the animal and for creation and life itself, that they are tapping into that. It's not by the avoidance of. Just like I don't believe somebody can be highly spiritually advanced if they are abstaining from sex or a partner, you know? Like a lot of people think that I'm really calm and I'm really this because they see a certain element of me portrayed in videos, but ask my partner if I'm like that, you know? And so you will never know your deepest shadow elements if they are not reflected to you in some way. And so likewise, how can you, I say that because when I talk about abstinence and avoidance, I don't believe that those are the path to full enlightenment. I think it's the experience. The spirituality is the spiritual experience. And that's why people like Osho, they would say, if drugs are on your mind, do them. Have that experience and have it fully, because through that experience, you will come out of that to be broadened and more enlightened through the experience, not from abstaining from the experience, where you will have avoided life. You will have avoided the spiritual experience. And veganism to me is that element of avoidance, or from cutting something out, or from abstaining from something that you judge to be wrong. And what element of us judges? Higher self or lower self? You know, it's really simple when you break it down in terms like that. Who judges what? Who made us, and who made us to do what? Who are we to start saying, no, I'm smarter than what made me, and what designed my digestive tract, what designed the enzymes, the bacteria? Why would I judge that and think that I'm better than that? So I don't do that. I listen to my body, I observe nature, and hey, at some point I may be vegan, or I may be vegan for a short period of time. I mean, for the last however many months, I've technically been a vegetarian, but I'd never label myself as a vegetarian. It's just that I've mostly been eating eggs and dairy in their various forms, and a bit of vegetable, bit of fruit, occasionally fish, but no meat. And that's not a conscious decision. That's just what my body has been asked. It's just, that's what's available, and that's what my body's been asking for. It's not that I'm a vegetarian because I'll label myself, therefore judge. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All of that aspect of everything is deeply rooted in the ego mind. Judgment, labeling, better than, worse than, good, bad, you know? So I just think that it's really leading people out of nature, and out of nature being their nature. I feel that it's a separation, and that in itself is a psyop, which is designed to get people out of the jungle, out of nature, and into the cities. Same thing, you know, burn down the forest, get them into the cities. I just